Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and once again I'm working on yet another one of these speed modeling videos where I'm working on yet another little prop, I guess, for the galactic ring. Once again, all of the 3D models made for the galactic ring are Creative Commons, and as such, I'm sharing them on my Discord server for free. You can get your hands on them for free on my Discord server. A link to my Discord server is in the video description below. And you can use these 3D models for just about anything, really. They're not optimized, but, you know, it's not too big of a deal. I mean, you're getting a free 3D model. I don't need to optimize these 3D models because they're going to be used for a comic book. They're not going to be used for a video game or for animation or anything like that. But still, free is free, and they are pretty decent models. You know, you can use them for, you know, just stealing geometry in order to place them into whatever you want, to kit bash anything together that you'd like. That sort of thing. That's kind of one of the main end goals here, as well just giving you guys assets, I guess. Also, if you feel as though you'd like to teach me how to optimize a model for video game or animations and stuff like that, then feel free to do so. You can get in touch with me on my Discord server. Once again, link in the video description below, and we can do a screen share, and or you can modify variously different props that I've gone ahead and created. Show me what you've done and ask me what I think, and we can see if I like them and if I can use them inside of the galactic ring, that sort of thing. We can call it a collaboration. Or you can go ahead and get a hold of the script. Again, it's in my Discord server. A link to my Google Doc is inside of my Discord server. It's a pinned message, and that's where you'll normally find these in the pinned messages. Basically, you can read the script there, what I have of it so far, if you'd like to modify the script, or if you just find a description of a particular prop or something along those lines and you would like to work on it, feel free to do so and show me what you've done, and I'll see what I think of it, and we can go from there. Again, the end goal of most of what this is a means to collaborate and talk to my audience and that sort of thing. But anyhow, let's talk about the model. Now, a few weeks ago, I drew out this rough sketch. I drew out a bunch of really rough concept images a few weeks ago inside of the sketchbook session series, and the thing is one of the things that I didn't like about that sketch of this particular model, which is a fueling station for ships that fly into a docking bay, as well as a repair station that happens to hold all of the tools for the mechanics that work on these fighter craft and such like that. One of the things I didn't like about the concept image that I made a couple weeks ago was that it was just a box and it had a big tube coming out of it, and that seemed kind of boring to me. And so I kind of changed that up a little bit, at least just a little bit. I decided, you know, what if I made that big tube just kind of obnoxiously big, just way bigger than the box itself? How would that work out? And I feel as though that changed up the silhouette from enough camera angles to where it's not just something completely boring. And here you can see me kind of create a sense of scale. This is kind of like a desk where the engineers, the mechanics, they can kind of diagnose problems with the variously different, you know, ships that come into the docking bay. You know, there's enough screens to show a variety of different kinds of information. But, you know, I also wind up modeling a keyboard, a QWERTY keyboard, which is a little bit tedious. At first I thought that I'd be able to do that by making one really big rectangular shape. And then I thought, well, okay, well, what if I made some cutters on that shape, and then I went ahead and cut the cutters and then made more cutters and then cut the cutters again. Wouldn't that work? And yeah, I guess it could have, but it would have been really tedious and frustrating. I wound up running into a lot of problems trying to go through that workflow. And so what I wound up deciding to do was to just delete what I was working on and just start from scratch. I created one key of the keyboard, and I decided, okay, well, that one key, I'm just going to keep that around so that I could transform it to any size that I need. And so I duplicated that key and then set it on an array, and then would decrease it accordingly. The array, I would decrease it accordingly, because if you look at a QWERTY keyboard, you have X number of keys, and then the next row of keys, it's less, like a lesser number of keys, and then as you go down, it's an even lesser number of keys as well. And that seemed like it worked out pretty well. It's a fairly accurate keyboard. I even, the caps lock on a lot of keyboards, there's like this L-shaped kind of gouge out of it, and I included that on the keyboard's design. And it's a fairly loyal and accurate keyboard as far as I'm concerned. And if you, like, as I keep saying, like, you can use these 3D models to kit bash. And so if you're in need of a keyboard, you can go ahead and just grab the geometry of the keyboard, and you can just plop it right into whatever project that you're working on, because working on a keyboard can be a little bit tedious. So I also put these little touch screens where they're above the keyboard and to the left and to the right. The idea is that those are touch screens or whatever, or if they really needed to have like a mouse sort of a setup, they could actually turn one of those touch screens into somewhat of like a mouse sort of key. But instead of you actually having a mouse, they would just use their finger in order to move the mouse around on other screens and such. I thought that would actually work out pretty good. Now, earlier in the video, while I was describing the galactic ring and all that, I made these little tubes that were accompanied by the big tube. Now, I didn't like how those initial ones were made. I made them on an array, and although that worked, at least to some degree, I was never really 100% happy with them, because it was an array. It was just this flat array, and none of the other chords conformed to the actual shape of the big tube. And so I wound up trying out a grease pencil and getting it to snap to the faces. And that worked out pretty well, but what I didn't really anticipate was that the pressure sensitivity and line thickness of the grease pencil wound up actually transferring over somehow to the curve. When I converted it to being a curve, and then I added the bevel, which created the cylinder, it wound up having the same pressure sensitivity as the grease pencil, which is weird. I did not anticipate that, but it was still okay, I guess, so I wound up keeping it the way it was. It wound up having a lot of topology. When you're working with grease pencil, I think that instead of having vertices, you're working with points. There were way too many points, and so I actually manually deleted the ones that I didn't need. That was kind of an unnecessary process. I didn't necessarily have to go that full-on gung-ho. I could have just selected all of them, gone select, check or deselect, delete. Select all of them again, select, check or deselect, delete. But that didn't occur to me at the time that I was working on it. And that's fine, things can be a little bit of a learning process, but it's something that took a little bit of time. Sometimes you know about a feature inside of a program, it just doesn't occur to you to use that feature until you're done. And so, since I'm working on this for free and they're free assets and stuff, I'm allowed to have a little bit of a screw up here and there, or not necessarily a screw up, but a learning process. And here, I applied a matte cap, and I noticed that there was a bunch of oddly reflective faces. And normally with this particular matte cap, when they wound up looking like that, that means that the normals have been flipped. For those of you that are unfamiliar with 3D modeling, a face, a face to an object has two sides, of course. Everything in three-dimensional space has two sides. However, or at least has at least two sides. Now, the thing about a 3D model's face is that there is a usable side and then there's an unusable side. And so the usable side, the software knows how to shade it properly. The unusable side, it's just like it won't render properly most of the time, I guess. And if you're going to throw the model into like a gaming engine or something like that, it's just not going to, things just aren't going to fly. It's not going to be the same as how it looks in Blender, even if it wound up shading to an acceptable level. It just won't look right. And so I wound up actually activating the face orientation, and the faces that are good wound up appearing as blue, and the faces that are bad, showing the wrong side of the face, turn up as red. I am curious, is there a way to change those colors? Because blue is actually the most difficult color for the eyes to see, and if you're looking at that for any extended period of time, you can sustain an injury to your eyes, eye strain and such like that. And if there's a way to customize the colors to the face orientation mode, I would, and you know how to do that, then I would very much appreciate any information that you have on how I could somehow fix that issue, because it's a little bit of a frustration of mine having to think, well, I can't be in this mode for very long, otherwise I might sustain some eye strain and possibly permanent damage or things like that. Because when I'm home from work, I spend a lot of time in front of the computer, and the last thing that I need is health problems going on with my eyes and such like that. Now, I didn't really have enough time to really work on any of the materials and such like that, and the model in and of itself is just fine, and I still have yet to figure out a way to share a model with you guys that in a way that has all of the materials anyhow, so it doesn't really matter all that much. The only thing that really matters is that, you know, every time that I mess around with that node-based interface in order to procedurally generate a texture or something like that, as some sort of material or something, it winds up, being a little bit of knowledge that I'm able to use for the future. But what I don't like about it, at least with my current understanding of Blender, is just that, you think about it, it's like, okay, well, I don't really know of any way inside of Blender how to grab a texture that I've already created in a different file and to throw it onto another object in a completely different file. I think I'm required to actually memorize each and every single node, what they do, and the variously different settings to some degree, and that doesn't appeal to me. Now, of course, Blender pretty soon here is going to get an update, if it hasn't happened already, where there's going to be an asset library, or there might be one already, but I'm busy with my life, work, and working on this at the moment, so I haven't really double-checked to see if the asset library has been released in an update recently. But as soon as I have that asset library, the idea of being able to just make a material once, only needing to worry about it once, and throwing it into that asset library and being able to just click, drag, and have it automatically applied to an object in any file whatsoever, that sounds phenomenal. I would love that. That sounds like a dream come true, actually. But yeah, as of right now, other than learning how to work with materials, I don't really feel like working with materials with that node-based interface is 100% beneficial to me, because it feels like, okay, great, well, I have this one material that's only used and only useful for this one object, this one 3D model that I worked on here, and that's rewarding in and of itself, but it's not like a reusable asset, so it's not something that I want to keep on doing over and over and over and over again. Now, one of the other things that I wound up changing inside of the design in relationship to the concept art that I made. Now, earlier I mentioned that I created a sense of scale. I created this bench, this workbench, where mechanics can type and look at a bunch of information on a bunch of screens to diagnose a damaged craft or something like that. And that's cool, but that sense of scale, it gives you an idea of just how tall this thing is. And it is tall. It is a rather large machine. And so I thought, well, okay, well, instead of the original concept art, for some reason I thought I should have a shelf and have these gas guns dangling from them. But it occurred to me as I was working on the 3D model, wow, those gas guns are so high. They're at least like 7 times the size of a human being. Like, in order to reach them, you'd have to be like 7 times the size of a human being to reach them. So it seemed like a really idiotic place to put these gas guns. And so I went ahead and decided, okay, well, you know, I have these mechanical boxes already located within this specific region, and those boxes are in both designs. I might as well just move these gas guns and attach them to those. It's not like I had any real vision as to what those boxes would do in the first place, other than, you know, they would have like little dials and such like that. But yeah, I was fairly loyal to this reference image, I suppose, but I only had one view of it, and it was a really low resolution image. And so I added all these bevels, but the thing is I was kind of confused about what edges wound up having bevels and what edges didn't, and so it's not 100% loyal, but when you look at it, what you see is a gas gun. You don't, or at least that's the term that I would use to describe what these are. A gas gun. If there's an official term for whatever the hell this thing is, feel free to let me know. It would be nice to at least know what the heck this thing is every time I go to the gas station. The thing is when as someone looks at it, they're going to see a gas gun. They're not going to see something that's trying to be a gas gun but fails at it. And so as long as I accomplished at least that, I was happy. And so yeah, I don't see anything to really, I guess, be upset about with the design that I wound up creating here. And you know, box cutter is kind of interesting because I feel as though I'm really liberated with box cutter. Like, I'm thinking all the time when I go to work and I see some sort of mechanical part, some machine or something, I get up close and personal with it, just kind of looking at different shapes and wondering, how would I even make that? And, you know, I guess I would ask myself that question somewhat frequently with Vanilla Blender. But the thing is where I was always drawing a blank as to how I would even create variously different shapes with Vanilla Blender, with Box Cutter, I'm actually legitimately thinking and visualizing how I would create that mechanical part. And I can't tell you how much of a lifesaver this paid plugin is. And if you don't have it, if you've never used it or anything like that, you know, there's plenty of videos that are tutorials that kind of showcase what this thing does. Really, if you're using Blender and you're not using Box Cutter, I really feel as though you're kind of wasting your time. Like, I really do. Like, this is a lifesaver. And, you know, it does create kind of an end-gone sort of workflow where later on you have to optimize the model. But the thing is as a basic sketch for a model that looks really crisp and actually looks finished, you know, you couldn't ask for more. I mean, it looks finished visually, but it does need optimization if you want it for anything else. So as you can see, this is the final model here on the screen right now. I think it came out looking absolutely awesome. I love this thing. This is just awesome. Now, I didn't do anything really elaborate with the camera this time around. I didn't really feel as though I really needed to. I was kind of short on time. This specific model took me a little bit of extra time. I felt like I had a learning process in and of itself that was rewarding. The end product is rewarding. So yeah, I have no complaints. I'm really happy with this. And once again, this will be shared on my Discord server for free. A link to my Discord server will be in the video description below. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to support this channel, feel free to click on the image of a t-shirt in the upper right corner of the screen right now. It leads to my Teespring. Any support with purchase of a t-shirt would be much appreciated. And if you've enjoyed this content and would like to see more, feel free to click on anything else that's appearing on screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.